Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn said today he is running to replace Mitch McConnell as the next Republican leader in the Senate. Cornyn is 72 years old. He previously served as minority whip. Cornyn said the Senate is broken, and he said he intends, if he's elected Republican leader, on having a, quote, major role in fixing it, unquote. CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins us now from Capitol Hill. Before we get to the McConnell situation, Nikole, catch us up on the government shutdown and where it stands.
Well, Congress is poised to approve a temporary funding deal that would basically, as we often say with these shutdown threats, kick the proverbial can down the road by shifting these funding deadlines by about a week or so. As it stands now, government funding is currently set to expire this coming Friday, March 1st, for 4 federal agencies, 8 others on March 8th. But this basically shifts those deadlines to March 8th and March 22nd, respectively. And the hope, Major, is that by then Congress can finally do what it's been wanting to do for a long time, which is to pass all 12 appropriations bills to fund the government on a longer-term basis by the middle of March.
Nikole, as you well know, the McConnell race of succession will not just have one candidate. John Cornyn's officially in today, but others are looking at it. Others will no doubt vie for it. This is an early sense of things. Do you have any directional indication of where the conference is at least leaning?
Well, I think it's still early at this point. I mean, obviously, we're just a day out from Leader McConnell actually surprising a number of his Republican colleagues when he made that announcement that he would step down as leader, despite, widespread speculation about his political future. But look, for some time now, there have been whispers in the halls here in Congress about the so-called 3 Johns. One of them you named, Senator John Cornyn of Texas, who officially threw his hat into the ring today. But there's also Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming, who is the Senate GOP conference chairman, as well as Senator John Thune, who is the Republican whip, all of whom have served in leadership and who have earned the respected trust of many members within the conference. Certainly with respect to Cornyn and Thune, they're a bit closer to McConnell, whereas Barrasso, is more at times conservative, sometimes aligned with the former president. And interestingly, late today, there were reports that the former president has reached out to the NRSC chair, Steve Daines, about potentially becoming the next Republican leader. That is something that, we've been told from a Daines aide, this conversation with the former president happened some time ago, and that certainly the chairman remains committed to making sure that Republicans win back the majority in the Senate. But that is probably also someone to keep an eye on and potentially not rule out. You also have Rick Scott of Florida, who is somebody who has challenged Leader McConnell in the past. That was a name that was brought up to me earlier today by the chair of the House Freedom Caucus, Bob Good, who actually believes that Leader McConnell should step down from leadership now. So there are a lot of names that are floating out there, but as you know, Major, only time will tell kind of who eventually rises to the top.
Nikole, very quickly, we have an announcement from the House Speaker on the Republican who will deliver the response to the State of the Union address. Who is it?
That's right. It's Alabama Senator Katie Britt, who is really seen as an up-and-comer rising star within the Republican Party, first female senator to be elected from the state of Alabama. She is the mom of school-age children and really is expected to talk about some of the stresses and strains that many American families feel and that obviously she can relate to as a young mother of school-age children, Major.
Senator Britt has also been mentioned in some Republican quarters as a potential running mate if former President Trump secures the Republican nomination. Nikole Killion, thank you so very much.